this very gracious and generous introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation to share a few thoughts and to moderate this very important panel on this very important subject. I understand that since we are running late, the organizers have decided that we'll have no lunch. So we are going to continue through the lunch. No, that was basically meant to signal that we will try to conclude the session if 2 minutes before 1 o'clock and not 1 minute after. So I need the cooperation of my fellow panelists and also the cooperation of each and every one of you that we are able to finish this session on time. A couple of comments I will make before I invite the two eminent speakers to share their thoughts on this subject. So I think the first, in terms of the initial presentations that were made in the plenary session, it was mentioned that Trivandrum and Kerala comes to be discussed only as far as maritime issues are concerned. And I think that is but appropriate because we have seen that since the independence, the focus has been on land borders because we've received challenges, basically as far as land borders are concerned. And I think also since our land borders, whether it is on the west or it is on the north, we've had difficult relations with our neighbors there. So even as far as, of course, security is one issue, but even as far as trade is concerned, we have not really been able to use our land borders. So as it has been mentioned, about 90% of our trade by volume and about 70% of our trade by value is conducted through maritime, through our coastal boundaries. About 7,500 kilometers if we take only as far as the peninsula is concerned. But if we were to include all the islands, whether it is Lakshadweep and its archipelago, also as far as Andaman Nicobar and its archipelago, that would be well into 11,000, 12,000 kilometers of coastal boundary that we have. So it is very important both for security as well as for trade. And of course, this was mentioned, I think it was referred to in the morning also by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, our first Prime Minister, in his discovery of India, that our security will be at stake if we do not control the seas in our vicinity. Of course, importance of Kerala in that context cannot be emphasized because it's been mentioned that in fact the first Jewish community in terms of their arrival in India was when the first temple of Solomon was destroyed in the 7th century BC. And the Jews came here at that time in the 7th century. And the second inflow was in the 1st century AD, around 72 AD, when they came here, when the second temple of Solomon was destroyed. And of course, later on also, when it was in 1492, the diktat, it was given in by Spain and Portugal. And then also we had the Paradesi Jews that came to the coast of Kerala. In fact, it is also mentioned possibly as a mythology, but when St. Thomas came here to the coast of Kerala in 52 AD, that he saw a young Jewish girl playing on a lyre who welcomed him. So I think the position of Kerala, of course, has been very, very strong as far as our maritime interaction during the spice route that was mentioned, 3000 BCE, that is about 5,000 years ago. Of course, while mentioning about the western coast of India, one shouldn't forget what the contribution of the eastern coast, that is the Chola Empire also, about 1,000 years ago, as to how they had gone and established all the empires in Southeast Asia, whether it was the Srivijaya Empire and all the others. But I think when we are looking at the current day issues, because that is what we would be discussing in terms of the evolving maritime issues, I will just mention, because this is a very erudite group, very knowledgeable group, I will just highlight a few of the issues and then come back on to to the panelists to share their thoughts on that. So the first issue that comes to mind is of the challenges that the world is facing as far as the South China Sea is concerned. South China Sea and the East China Sea, we have seen even in recent months and recent years in terms of the incursions into the airspace, whether it is of Taiwan or of Japan, the ADIZ incursions that take place about more than 3,000 annually, which means about more than 10 or approximately about 10 incursions every day that are taking place. So that is a serious matter. Of course, all of us are aware about the historical account in terms of the evolution of the issue of South China Sea as to how, as far as the 9-dash dotted line is concerned, China claims more than 80% of the South China Sea, which is both in terms of sea lines of communication. It's very important. Also, it is important because of the natural and the mineral resources that it contains. The Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague had pronounced against this 9-dash line of China in 2016, in July 2016, but China does not recognize that decision, that award that was given, and continues not only to assert control over this, but also occupy many of the islands which otherwise belong to other littoral states like Vietnam, like Philippines, and the others. And not only that, it is militarizing those islands. It is creating artificial islands. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges, and that was one of the reasons why the Quad was set up, and the whole idea and the concept of the Indo-Pacific came up. But of course, we know, according to the National Security Strategy of the United States that was issued in December last year, also the National Defense Strategy that has been issued just a couple of days ago, that Indo-Pacific and the Quad are not receiving the same significance, same prominence as far as the US security issues are concerned, as they did either during the Biden era or even during the Trump era. But of course, we have a number of other issues. Possibly one big issue I could flag, which has been very much in discussion these days, is the question of the Arctic security. And in the Arctic, we see that the Arctic ice is melting. And that is, of course, making all this area open to outside powers. That having been said, of course, there is also this intention, this strategy by China to go through the northern polar route and to call it the polar silk route in that sense. So there is an extended possibility of contestation and confrontation in the Arctic, particularly because the Arctic Council, which comprises of 8 members, has really stopped functioning after the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So I think that is another issue that has raised its profile over the last few years. Then, of course, we have the issue of the Houthis, who have come into play after October 2023, and that problem in terms of shipping, in terms of connectivity through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, that continues to be with us. The normal issues of piracy, of smuggling, of IUU fishing, of climate change, plastic pollution, oil spills, etc. All these challenges are there. But of course, along with that, one shouldn't forget to mention that there are very many opportunities also. So I think when we are talking about the maritime issues, when we discuss the challenges, of course, they occupy our mind space much more. But then the opportunities of a blue economy, which today contributes about 4% to India's GDP, but in terms of the possibility, in terms of the potential and the opportunities, there are huge areas that can be discussed. So with these few words, let me extend a very warm welcome to all of you once again. And let me invite Rear Admiral Rahul Shankar to make his presentation. As I said,